Hello and welcome back to the Smiley Games podcast for episode 122. Today, the Dumpster Boy returns to tell us all about a potential sleeper hit. Plus, we are going to be discussing Senua Saga Hellblade 2, Little Kitty, Big City, a few more games, and we're going to be reacting to the latest Assassin's Creed Shadows announcement trailer. Joining me, I already teased it. He's sitting right next to me, both in spirit and on camera. Cayman Darty, my sweet dumpster boy. Cayman, welcome back to the show. How are you?
He's back, baby.
He's back.
He's back. And possibly
oh,
better than ever.
Whoa. I can tell there's a bit of a difference in your voice. And I think what that difference is a freedom of a gallbladder.
It is indeed. That son of a bitch was yeeted from my body. You know, it was really interesting. I'm gonna tell the story live on air for everyone. So if you watch our streams, and hopefully you do, you would notice that I have very bad facial hair, unlike Patrick, who has wonderful facial hair. Truth is, I can't grow hair on any other part of my body but the top of my head. And when they take me back to like this little like area where they're like pre-op, like getting me ready to get put under so they can, remove an organ from my body. And the nurse is like, hey, I need you to lift your gown. I need to shave you. So I'm sitting here thinking like, I'm not wearing underwear. And this is very embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I really don't. I'm very prudish. And I'm like, I really don't want to do this. She's like, I just need to see your belly. You can keep the blanket on down there. And I was like, fantastic news. Fantastic. So to situate myself, pull a shirt. And I tell her, I said, honestly, I'm not sure if this is even necessary. I don't have a lot of hair. And she was like, it'll be fine. A lot of people say that, but we have to shave. And so when I pull up my gown so she can see my stomach, she goes, you weren't kidding. You got like 3 hairs on your stomach, don't you?
And were they taken from you? Those 3
hairs? They
hairs?
were indeed. Damn. The 3 hairs. And someone told me later, they're like, you know what's going to happen? Once you shave that, it's going to come back fully. They have not come back. It's been 2 weeks. I've not grown a single hair on my stomach.
Hey.
So I'm sitting there, Patrick, and this lady walks in as I'm getting my belly shaved.
Yeah.
And she walks in and she goes, oh, what did I walk into? I snapped up. The intrusive thoughts won. And I said, we're having a party. Do you want to join?
Yes.
I don't think she was as amused as I was, but I was also petrified because I've never had major surgery before. But good news is I am back. I'm feeling, honestly, like I'm feeling so much better. It is insane, like what a sick gallbladder can do to you.
Sure.
And so I'm back at it. I am allowed to drive now. I still can't lift anything over 20 pounds.
Sure.
For the next 2 weeks.
You couldn't really ever.
No, I'm a very weak, fragile man. So nothing's really changed in my life outside of the fact that now I can eat whatever I want. And 2, I shit profusely. So, we're rolling in joy over here, baby.
Look, all I'm saying is anyone in the audience, be ready for a live phone call if Cayman leaves for me to just keep on with the show with you on speakerphone. Speaking of Cayman, we got Colehouse Jr. in the chat, subscribing with a tier 1 sub, says, Cayman's back. Welcome back, man. He also gifted a sub. Terry out here just showing the folks how it's done. We also got Rabbit128 in the chat. He says the delay in start for the show should have given you enough time to regrow all those baby hairs twofold. So we got 6 hairs now, if John is to be believed. Your story, though, did make me remember a time I went to a urologist, Cayman.
Yeah.
Not nearly as funny as a story as yours, but I was getting some what's the procedure where you look at a baby? Ultrasound. I was getting an ultrasound done, not on a baby.
Yeah. Had a few of those recently.
Yeah. And she was like, go ahead and pull your pants down. And I was like, okay, I need like a little bit more information because that could mean so many things.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't need to see anything fun. I was like, okay, great. You should have led with that because I could have just pulled my dick out and I would have been really embarrassed.
Yes, that's how I was. Like, I'm so glad that she saw the look of trepidation on my face, or she would have seen some stuff.
Yeah. But hey, we all have bodies. Cayman, we have a lot of video game stuff to talk about now that we've talked about our bodies. because this is the Spotlight Games podcast where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod, or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod, just like the aforementioned Cole House Jr., just like the aforementioned Rabbit128. So be sure to follow us on Twitch so that you're notified when we go live, so you can be part of the conversation. Cayman,
yes.
What a joy it is to have you back. We've missed you both on the podcast and in the audience. I'm speaking for them, but I know I'm speaking for them properly. But Cayman, we are going to be back tomorrow night again with The Last of Us Part 2. We finally, for those of you that have been following along on our journey, we took a week off because last week I was out of town. I was in Mobile, Alabama.
Terrible.
And so we skipped a week of The Last of Us, but we will be back tomorrow night. We are now in day 2, if that means anything to you. So it seems like we were moving at a snail's pace, but Ellie's learning some things up in Seattle. So we're in day 2. So check back in tomorrow around 8 o'clock, and we're going to play a little bit more of The Last of Us. Also, Cayman.
Yes.
Join the fucking Discord. Got a fun little Discord where we discuss what we're playing and generally goof off together about video games. So if that sounds like something you'd like, click the link in the description. Click the link in the bios of our socials. Join the Discord. Cayman, we got so much to talk about.
Man, it's been...
We haven't heard from you in like a month on what you've been playing.
I know. I think that might actually be accurate.
It might actually be accurate. Maybe 3 weeks. Maybe 3 weeks. But it's been a while. So let's just fucking rip off the Band-Aid. We got games to talk about. Cayman, I did say that you've not gotten to share what you've been playing, but I'm going to start. I'm going to talk about Little Kitty, Big City.
This is a more important topic than anything I could talk about.
Yeah, exactly. This is a game that we've talked about a little bit on the show. Famously, you had Kayla draft it with one of her final draft picks because all the games that she thought existed didn't. And it just finally came out a couple weeks ago, week and a half ago on Game Pass. It's also on like every platform, but it's free on Game Pass. And let me tell you what, brother.
Tell me what.
This is a good fucking video game.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah! For those of you that aren't in the know, Little Kitty, Big City, you play as a cat in, it's a pretty small city, but for a cat, it's huge. And it's a lot like Untitled Goose Game, if you're familiar with Untitled Goose Game. It's like Untitled Goose Game meets Stray, and not necessarily just because you're a cat, although that's a lot of the reason why it meets Stray. But the plot here, because there is a plot, is as this cat, you have fallen out of the top floor of a building safely, of course. You got 9 lives, and you are tasked with getting back up to your home, but you don't got enough energy to do it all in one fell swoop. So you got to figure out, how am I going to muster up the energy to get all the way up to the top floor of this building? And by doing so, you're befriending crows, you're befriending tanukis, you're befriending other cats in the neighborhood. They're giving you little quests to go on to help you kind of get to that next step. It's very collectibles driven. It's very, and then like the Untitled Goose Game side of it is like, at one point you meet like a bug and he's like, hey, I'm an influencer but my phone is broken. I need you to go steal me a phone. So you can go knock people over, take their phone from them, bring it to the guy. So it's a lot of that too. It's the like, how can I figure out this person or this character needs something, and how can I go disrupt society to get them the thing that they need as a cat? Really cute art style, really funny too. Like there's a lot of dialogue in the game that is very humorous. So yeah, I'm having a great time. Is this going to be game of the year? No. Does it have to be? No. Am I still having a great time? Yes.
That fills my heart with joy. Yeah. That this, like, because the running joke from that episode was really just the fact that like the title is Little Kitty, Big City.
Great title.
Fantastic title. And just, I was so hung up on that being like, someone's got to draft it.
Oh,
I was drafting banger after banger, and I was like, I can't ruin this. But I'm glad that Kayla did. And the fact that it actually scored higher on Fantasy Critic than No Rest for the Wicked,
it shocked me. But
blew my goddamn mind.
But I'll tell you what, I get it. Like, it's for what it's trying to do. it is a clean fucking video game, and I love that about it. Like I do feel like No Rest for the Wicked got a little shafted in its review scores. I feel like that's like a low 8 game, but I would say Little Kitty Big City a solid like 8 as well. Like I was talking with Cognitive Clips, who's now in the chat yesterday about it, and I was like, I feel like it's maybe like in the 7 range. But the more I've thought about it, it's like, what a fun, they had their goal and they fucking nailed it. I've not finished the game, but I've not had any sort of like bugs. I've not had any sort of performance issues. It's like it's a clean game with a fun premise, and you get to be a cute little cat, and you can stretch, and you can nuzzle, and you can nap in the sun. Like it's great. I'm having a good time. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. If you like the Untitled Goose Games of the world, if you liked Stray, if you like cats, I think this is worth your time. So a good find from the dumpster boy, fully endorsed by Spotlight Games. If I were to give it a score right now, I'd probably do like the 7.5-8 range.
Solid,
really solid video game. Cayman.
Yeah.
What about you? What's been on your radar with games you've been playing?
Which one do you want me to talk about first?
Let's talk about
pre-surgery or post-surgery.
Let's talk pre-surgery.
Pre-surgery. All right, pre-surgery. So, Patrick.
Yes.
On the heels of the Fallout TV show, I feel like there was like this resurgence where everyone was like, we all need to go back and replay Fallout.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't stomach the idea of replaying Fallout 4. Just couldn't do it. However, I wanted to see what the hubbub was about that game that came out that everyone hated.
Yep.
But then apparently got better, Fallout 76.
Boom.
Let me tell you, Patrick. Did it get better? I don't know. Maybe. Did it get worse? I don't know. Maybe. Can the game barely function? Yes. Are we expecting that because this is a Bethesda game? Also, yes. I've never seen a game. I've never played a game, Patrick, with this many bugs in it. Yeah. And I'm not talking rad roaches,
brother.
And whatever the bot flies are. I think they're just called bot flies.
I think they're just called bot flies.
Boat flies. Either way, look, not talking about those types of bugs. I'm talking about the fact this game crashes, crashes. I saw things disappear, things reappear. I had quests that I was on that just completely stopped working. There was a moment where Cognitive Clips and I were playing together, and we were searching for a marker for a quest line for solid 30 minutes. Solid 30 minutes. Could not find it because it just didn't exist. We had to like reload into an area to get it to pop. Sound completely disappears.
Yeah.
There was a moment we're in a mission together, and we're in two different areas of this water park.
Okay.
Walk down into you have to turn the power on or something in this water park. So go down in the basement to do this. And then all of a sudden, all of the colors invert. Like negatives.
What
fuck? I'm yelling into the mic. I'm like, Cognitive, the lights are out. I don't know what's going on down here. And I'm losing my goddamn mind. This game is loaded with bugs.
Yeah.
Had a fucking blast playing it.
But it's fucking fun, right?
It is fun. And I think that's the thing about Bethesda that if this was a normal game, I would have just given up and been like, no, not doing this anymore. This isn't worth it. I forgot there was a game I was playing that was like that. I think it was Starfield, where I was like, I legitimately am not having fun anymore because of the level of shit I'm going through.
Sure.
It's interesting though that even though I feel like I had more bugs in Fallout 76, I feel like it was more fun. And I think it's because it has the Bethesda magic that Starfield doesn't have, which is when you're exploring and coming across things naturally. Starfield forces you to go to places, and in the process, you are seeing what they've built in a way that doesn't feel natural or organic. Whereas Fallout 76 feels natural, it feels organic, it feels fun to stumble into random side quests. It feels fun to stumble into random amusement parks and be like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
I think the crafting mechanics are really fun. I think the survival portion isn't nearly as forced upon you that I think a lot of games in the survival
I was shocked by
genre, which I don't really vibe with the survival stuff. So I like it. It gives me enough survival to understand this is a survival game. However, there's enough everything else to be like, this is a Fallout game, and there is Fallout fun to be had. And oddly enough, I definitely I really warmed up to it. The problem I had, and the reason why post-surgery, not playing it, is because I ended up having to delete it because it was taking up 250 gigs on my hard drive.
And can I just say, respectfully, unacceptable that game is that big.
Unacceptable.
Like, come the fuck on. Like, I haven't looked again to see if they've released a patch that like makes it a little smaller than that. But like, come on. The game is just not pretty enough. It does not run well enough.
Oh, this game's
warrant
ugly
that kind of space. It's so silly. Like, it looks better than like Fallout New Vegas, just because that game is from like 15 years ago and is set in like a shitty version of Las Vegas, but it doesn't look that much better. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah, I don't think it looks any better than like the new with the next gen patch on Fallout 4. I don't think it looks better than Fallout 4.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the next gen patch and all that, but like this game came out after Fallout 4.
Yeah, it was like 2017 or 18, I think.
This game's out 6 years. 2018, Fallout 4 came out in 2015.
15.
4
was 15.
So, and I get also like that it's like, oh, well, it's an MMO, but like the game runs like dog shit.
Yeah.
And that's like where I'm like, I just don't get it. But like, also it's fun enough that like I will forgive a lot of that.
For sure. And I will say, so yeah, I also had a great time with it. I've not gone back to it just because of life, but I kind of really do want to go back to it. But I will say, in terms of performance, I did a thing because there was a kind of a behind the scenes plan, like maybe we stream this at some point with the community, and that plan kind of fell apart. But because of that, I paid like $4 for a private server. It's like a monthly fee, which I need to cancel that actually. And on the private server, it performed so much better. But it's the kind of thing where it's like you can't expect everybody to pay for a private server. Like, that is, granted, it's free on PlayStation Plus, so like there's that at least where like you're not, you could justify it up to a degree of like paying that like $4 or $5 a month.
See, I struggle with this idea though. That's like, yeah, I get that it'll run better on a private server. My problem with that is, I had more fun running into random people in the world.
True, for sure.
Being like, oh yeah, this dumbass that's running around in a fucking nuclear waste outfit.
Yeah.
Is like, and I'm running around with the giant, what looks like a salad colander on my head.
It feels different for sure playing.
Right. And it's cool. Like, I think that's the thing. I really vibe with this idea of like MMO Fallout. Whereas like, that's actually a really cool concept of like, you're in the wasteland and you're running across random people from vaults. It's really cool. Yeah. Makes me want to play like the Elder Scrolls Online to see like what that's all about.
Sure, which is on PlayStation Plus now as well.
Yeah. So like that sounds like that does sound kind of cool. But like after the whole gig thing and the fact that the game does run rough as hell and all the other part of me is like, I kind of want to try out Sea of Thieves instead.
Sure. I don't blame you.
I think we are going to try to set up sometime so we can finally get John into the fray.
Yes.
That's poor sucker that's stuck on an Xbox right now.
I am all in on that idea. So yeah, let us know. Is that something that you would be interested in, playing a little Sea of Thieves with us in the community? Because it sounds like a fun time. Let's be fucking pirates together.
Let's be fucking pirates, dog.
Cayman, what is another game that you've been playing? Because I know post-surgery, you've moved on from 76. So what is the new game for the Dumpster Boy right now?
Right. So I'm going to throw out my hidden gem of 2024.
Let's go.
Which is fun, hitting right around May. So we'll see if this carries over to end of year. But my hidden gem of the year right now is a little game called Sandland. Sandland's based on Akira Toriyama. Rest in peace. Home, my boy. Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball Z. Also the creator of Dragon Quest. So he's like intrinsically tied to video games. He came out with a manga that was like a short form manga that ran, I don't think very long. It was only like one story with like an OVA, and it's called Sandland. And basically you play as a character named Beelzebub, who is the prince of demons. Your father is Lucifer, but the catch here is that demons are actually like really nice, but they want to be evil, right? That's like the catch is like they're like we're evil, but then they're like helping everyone, and everyone keeps commenting on the fact that like for a demon, like you're really nice, and he gets really mad about it. But so either way, the game is it's basically it's you play as Beelzebub. You team up with a guy named Rao, who's like a war vet, as you find out, and you are on the search for a legendary spring to bring water back to Sandland. During the process, you meet a bunch of really interesting and vibrant characters. At the same time, it also bigs to a larger arcing story that's really cool. The thing is with this game, it is so unique in the way that it's like, this is a PS2 ass video game.
Yeah.
Where, and I say that with such a giant grin on my face and love in my heart for this, because the crux of the gameplay is that you drive around in a tank and you will collect parts. You can fully customize your tank with new weapons to like fit your play style. There's RPG mechanics, but it's not just tanks. You can get mechs, you can get bikes, you can get hovercrafts, you can get all sorts of weird and wacky vehicles, jump bots, hoppers, things that have like different things. The bots that you're driving, right? They act as like a Metroidvania style thing where it's like you unlock a new vehicle will now let you access certain other areas of the world. This feels like a PS2 style game in which it's not as much about the collecting as it is like traversing an open world with Metroidvania style gameplay mechanics, with light RPG mechanics built in, with a really charming and heartwarming story. You don't have to see the anime to be able to play this game or enjoy it, but if you want to, it's on Hulu right now. So you get Hulu. It's 13 episodes, fantastic, fun little show. But yeah, man, this game fucks. The soundtrack's great. The voice acting, it's like fully voice acted.
The art style is incredible.
The art style is pure Toriyama.
Yeah.
And the gameplay, I will say the gameplay can be a little bit outside of like, because you can get hand-to-hand combat. That is a part of the game too. That can be a little bit wonky. It's not the greatest by any stretch. And I think that's kind of one of the drawbacks is like when you're out of your vehicle, it's just a beat 'em up. It's a button smash. You got a few moves you can do. You have like auxiliary moves, or the people that are with you, like Rao and Thief and Anne, can do other moves in combat with you. But the bulk, and I think this is why like I'm not as like harsh on that part, is 90% of the combat is in vehicles.
Interesting.
And so the way they build in boss fights that are like all these interesting mechanics and boss fights, and you're in a vehicle that you can just seamlessly swap in and out of to like do different things. It's a really interesting mechanic that like feels like a game that would have been on like seriously like on GameCube or like on PlayStation, like on the PS2. That would be like one of those games you would pick up randomly at like Blockbuster that's discounted heavily.
Yeah.
And you're like, or you just pick it up to rent it one evening because you're like, oh, this is a really cool art, box art. I want to play this game. And then you turn around like that was like Katamari Damacy for me. Like turning around and be like, this is like one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think Sandland's going to be I don't think it's going to have the same impact as Katamari for me. However, I do think that like it's a fun game. I think people will enjoy it. It's also $59, so it's a little bit less than like a normal price game. So not technically a budget title per se, but cheaper.
Sure.
And yeah, dude, it's like really enjoy it. I think that this is a perfect game. If it gets down to $30, pick it up at 30.
Okay.
Easy, pick it up at 30. Yeah.
Cool. What do you feel like, because I feel like the last game that was kind of like in the conversation that was very car combat forward that people liked was Mad Max. Does it feel like better, worse, same, different?
I think the car combat is more fun.
Okay.
In Sandland. The hand-to-hand combat, way more fun in Mad Max.
Gotcha.
I will say the thing is that there's all these little towns spread out, and like when you find these little towns, you're gonna find peddlers that are like merchants. They'll sell you new blueprints that will unlock new weapons you can craft using a crafting system that's baked into the game, which is a really cool feature.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a ton of side quests.
Cool.
And some of the side quests are hysterically funny. Some are just as simple as like, hey, bring me, fetch quest, bring me 10 of these, or go grab this thing that's over there. But you also have some side quests that are like, your character's dressed up as Santa Claus, and now you need to sneak through a town, not get caught, and deliver presents.
Yeah.
Why? No one knows why. Does it matter? Absolutely not, because it's fucking hysterical.
I love it.
And so, like, really interesting, just a really interesting concept of a game. And I think it really, because of the way that the game works is it's like, it tells the same story as the anime. However, almost everything inside of it is made to be fit a video game.
Interesting.
So I watched the anime first and then played the game, and I'm like, there's so many different story beats and things that happen and components in the game that are different, but match the story, like match being in a video game better, which honestly makes it awesome because I don't feel like I'm retreading the same ground. I'm like, I can experience the story from like a different version of the same story, like a remake or something. It's a really weird thing that I don't think I've ever really experienced in a way that works that well.
That's really cool. Yeah, I do like that they both kind of came out within like close to each other.
Yeah,
which is really cool. Cayman, last game that we'll talk about in terms of what we've been playing is a big one. This is one just came out today on Xbox and PC. One of the kind of most anticipated games of the year. A game that has had a lot of eyes on it from a very questionable Xbox recently, which, some things that we didn't get to talk about on the show, really, lots of layoffs, whole studios being closed, a lot of bullshit coming from Microsoft and Xbox in the last few weeks. But that's Senua Saga Hellblade 2. And so it's on Game Pass right now, both Xbox and PC. And I've played about half of this video game. I was able to carve out a little time before we went live to I've completed 3 of the 6 chapters of this game. So this won't be a full review because I think when a game is only 5 or 6 hours and you're halfway through, I think there's a lot that could still change in such a short amount of time because of how kind of cinematic the game is and how kind of narrative forward the game is. But I can at least share my thoughts so far, which is kind of a lot of thoughts. So last week on the show, Jordan, aka Cognitive Clips, joined us, and I kind of gave my review of Senua's Sacrifice, the first Hellblade, which came out back in 2017. And in that review, if you didn't catch it, overall, I was very impressed with the game. I gave it an 8 out of 10, a 4 out of 5. And I loved like the narrative kind of element of it. I loved this idea of putting the player in the shoes of someone struggling with psychosis, and the way that they, with the voices kind of always talking to you, whether positively or negatively, influencing combat, influencing, how you move around the world, was such an interesting, fun concept. And I thought that the combat was fun, but pretty simple.
Sure.
But it left me kind of hoping that a sequel would improve on things like the puzzles, things like the combat, have a bit more of a clear story that it's trying to tell. And so far, unfortunately, most of the things I wanted did not come to fruition. I'm still having a very good time with this video game, but this is already a very divisive video game. It's getting 8s, it's getting 5s, it's getting 6s, it's getting 3s, like that. It's getting 9s. It's kind of all over the spectrum. I think it's very much a mileage may vary game. Mm-hmm. So I want to start with the positive though, and then we can kind of go into the negative, and then any questions that you have, we can answer those too. But so far, and I think everyone is aligned on this. Of all the reviews that I've read, I listened to Kind of Funny's Games Cast about it today, doing a review conversation. It is, I think, objectively the most stunning video game that has ever been made. Like, it is the things that this game visually does is, like, most of the time completely breathtaking. Granted, it's a small experience. Like, it's not an open world. It's not. It's like they, I think, had the ability to really lean into making it look fucking incredible, because they're animating, you know, such a small space, and there's only so many characters. Like, it's when you compare it to something like Horizon Forbidden West, it's kind of crazy how good Horizon Forbidden West looks with how big it is. But still, this game is like a marvel to look at. I'm playing it on the Series X, and I've not had like any sort of issues so far, which I'd be pretty miffed if I were, because the game, they're kind of showcasing this game as like, hey, this is going to be a visual spectacle. So far, like 5 out of 5, they've completely nailed the visual side of it. The audio side of it, I think, also has taken a step up. I think the way that they are utilizing the Furies, the voices in your head, is so, it just feels elevated from the first game. It feels like it's more than just noise, if that makes sense. It's like, sure, sometimes they're almost like having a conversation with you, which I like. I appreciate it. It's like I feel like it's adding like a layer to this narrative aspect of Senua's psychosis that so far, I feel like there have been a few moments of the second one where I'm like, this is, it like feels even more jarring than the first game, with the way that the voices are kind of participating, as it were. So that's great. Like, I'm very pleased with how the audio has kind of set it to the next level compared to the first game. The puzzles so far is, I think, my biggest issue with this game. I think I gave a lot of grace to the first game, I think, because it's a game from so many years ago. It was not their first game, but of this magnitude, Ninja Theory's first like kind of big attempt at something that they had a clear vision for. And like in the first game, if you haven't played it, there's really only kind of one puzzle style, and there's a locked area, and in order to get through the area, you look at these like glyph shapes, and then you have to walk around the world and kind of find those glyph shapes in the world. Maybe it's like branches, maybe it's like bodies that are kind of like flailed out. And like, once you find all of the symbols in the world, the door will open. A very rudimentary puzzle theme, or a puzzle idea rather, that I kind of always chalked up to, oh, it's like their first attempt, and like didn't have as much of a budget. They weren't backed by Microsoft. This wasn't like a tentpole Microsoft game back in 2017. And like that puzzle system is the exact same. Like it works actually kind of a little worse than it did in the first game, because it has, a lot of people online are kind of comparing it to God of War Ragnarok, and how Atreus would be like, oh, have you tried this yet? Of like, it just like tells you the solution like 3 seconds into the puzzle. With this game, and I didn't have this experience with the first one, you'll be like walking through the environment, and it'll be like, ooh, it's right here. And then like you'll pull up the thing, and it'll like immediately put it into place. I'm like, I'm not even like close to where I'm supposed to be for it to be lined up. It's like handing me the puzzle, and to where I'm like, okay, why is it here? Like, if all you want me to do with this puzzle is just walk around the space, I think the collectibles that you've put in the game are enough for that. Like, I'm already walking around the space looking for your collectibles. This puzzle feels like it's just halting my progress. Like it's just holding me back from experiencing this experience that is really breathtaking in a lot of ways. And there's like one new puzzle mechanic that they've introduced that I just got to before I quit for tonight. That is, it's like you find these like balls around the world, and you got to like get them in this place to like open up the path forward. It's like another version of the same puzzle, and it's just like not satisfying at all. And I'm so shocked by that, because the other kind of side of it is they've also changed up the combat a little bit and made it a lot simpler. And what I mean by that is, in the previous game, it's very much just a like parry and attack system. You can dodge, but like it's not really relying on a dodge a whole lot. But there could be like 7, 8 enemies at a time. So the voices are very much like behind you, and like you got to make sure like, oh, there's someone behind me. They've made a very conscious choice to only ever make it be 1v1 combat, and I think that was a mistake so far. I think it's taken a lot of the conflict out of the conflict, if that makes sense. Of like, now it's only ever 1v1, and it's just a lot easier to kind of win, I guess. Like it's just very, so far I've not been challenged like at all with the combat because I'm only ever worried about one enemy. I don't have to worry about checking in behind me, listening to the voices. And I think so far after 3 chapters, I kind of think the combat just doesn't feel as good either. Like the parry window is a bit smaller, so I'm getting hit a lot more, but then I'm not. I feel like when I get hit, it's not actually a problem. Like I feel like at this point I should have died several times, and I'm just not dying. And I'm not on easy mode. I just feel like Senua, if you played the first one, she's like, oh, she gets knocked down and like kind of gets a close up on her face, and it's like in the first game that was its way of telling you like, hey, you're about to die, and that's happened 2 or 3 times, and then I don't die. She just like gets up and we continue fighting. So I'm like, I don't know. It's very strange with the way that they've changed the combat system. But the one positive about the combat system, and then I'll shut up and see what thoughts you have based on what I've said. They've really amped up the cinematic quality of the combat system, which I do like. I feel like if they could have married the cinematic lift that the second game has gotten with just a cleaner combat version of the first game. And what I mean by the cinematic nature of it, because it's always 1v1, like whenever you defeat an enemy, if there's like a pseudo ally near you, or if there's just like something in the environment that'll happen that'll essentially like bring your focus to a new enemy. Like someone might come in and like a new enemy might like come in and like bump you, and then you got to turn around and like, oh, now I'm fighting this new person 1v1. Or like there's this ally that was in the space that like I kill a guy and then the ally like jumps in and like kind of gets my attention and is like fighting someone, and then they die, so now it's my turn to go kill him. So like it is a really cool, and so far I've not really seen a lot of like redoing of the cinematic where it's like it really feels like each kind of transition in the combat is unique to, and makes it feel really like an elevated cinematic experience.
Sure.
But then I'm in this combat that's like not good ultimately. And it's like, I'm so shocked by that like I figured with the backing of Microsoft, you've spent 7 years building this game. I would have expected the combat to take a huge leap forward. And I think what they tried to do, they nailed some of it, but ultimately I think it is a lesser experience than the first game with combat, which is a disappointment. But I've been rambling. I've thrown a lot at you. Based on you watched a lot of the game. Like where's your head at with what you've seen and all the things that I've vomited out? Where's your head
sure? At? So I have an Xbox. I can reactivate Game Pass if I want to. From what I've seen, this does not move the needle for me to spend, however much to get Game Pass for another month to play it. I mean, it is what it is. I played the original game. I enjoyed the original game, but by the end, and it's a short game too. I just felt like between the puzzles and the combat, I would have preferred to just explore the world.
Sure.
Because it felt like the puzzles and the combat didn't do anything to elevate the game itself.
Sure. And
I get why they didn't do it because, at that point, it's just a walking simulator. And walking simulators were also at that point when Senua's Sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Is that the first one? When that game came out, walking simulators were like, don't do it anymore. We are done. We've gone through this. Please no more. So it kind of felt like the reason that we had combat in the first place and the puzzles, while they worked within like the narrative, they kind of felt like they were tacked on just so it wouldn't be a walking simulator.
Yeah.
Seeing what I've seen, and I've watched a good portion of a long play while I was working today. So keep in mind, I'm not actively playing. What I've seen, a couple things that stood out to me. It never really felt like what I was watching that like the puzzles ever felt in a lot of the combat sequences ever felt natural. They always just feel like they were there to break up the monotony of walking.
Sure.
Which that goes back to the point of the walking simulator portion of like why. So that kind of looked like, okay, it doesn't seem like that's a big deal. The 1v1, like I totally know what you're talking about with the whole cinematic fighting thing. And honestly reminded me a lot of Uncharted 4's sword fight.
I had the exact same thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Which by the way, I want to talk to you off air about the fact that I had a memory pop up about Uncharted 4 between us that was super sweet. So either way, like that was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. The fact that like when I'm watching this, and I like for the first 30 minutes of watching it, like I was not paying attention to work related stuff. Thank God. Because this is a nightmare right now. So I'm just like intently watching like 30 minutes before any sort of like gameplay that's not just a cinematics and walk cinematic, a lot of cinematics, which is fine, right? If this is, I think for me, if this is just a test to be like, this is how great this engine's going to look and all these other games are going to use it for, then I'm like, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
It seems weird. It seems like it seems like they're working on making a movie, which is really cool idea.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it connects to the video game. The one thing I saw on Twitter, I forgot who it was. It was a pretty big name. I forgot who it is though, so I'm sorry. But their response on like their review of it, someone asked them, they're like, "What do you build? What do you think?" And they're like, "Hellblade 2 is the dragon fruit of video games. It is gorgeous on the outside and tastes like nothing on the inside."
Wow,
and I'm like, that's kind of the consensus I'm seeing on a lot of reviews.
Here's what I'll say. I think there is truth to that for sure. I think what I do want to make clear is that I think it is really cool that we got this game, and I want to get more stuff like this that is different than other games that I play. But what I hope for future experiences is that it doesn't feel as empty, I think is a good word for it. Where like narratively, it has so much going for it. Character wise, it has so much going for it. Visually, audio, all that kind of stuff. It has so much going for it. And not every game has to be like, I'm on the sticks at every single moment. I mean, fucking look at Hideo Kojima. He's made a career out of having more cinematics than gameplay in his games for the most part. But I think when a game gets to the height that Hellblade has gotten because of Xbox, that I think it is put under a different kind of microscope in what we're looking for. And whether that's fair or not, that's for you to decide. But I think this game is being compared to things like God of War Ragnarok. It's being compared to things like Horizon Forbidden West, because this is an Xbox first party, third person action story driven video game. And so I think those comparisons are totally valid because it's a similar genre from a competing player in the game, right?
For sure.
But so I think all of the kind of the criticism I think is totally fair. But what I don't want to get lost is that I hope that because this game isn't being received as like, you know, game of the year contender, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, that it makes Xbox go, oh, we don't need games like this in the future. Because I do think even though there is more, like I wish that it did more with what it's doing, I still feel like I'm probably going to land around like a 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10, because where it's good, it's so good. It's just that I think if it were delivering where it's kind of bad, even at like decent, I think that this could easily be a game of the year contender. It's just like, it's this weird, complete like pendulum swing of like, this part's amazing and this part is kind of just like not very good at all.
For sure.
Because yeah, I would love to see more. Like in a lot of ways, like this does kind of feel like Experiment 2.0.
Yeah,
and I think that's really cool. Like I with this being Unreal Engine 5, one of the first like not the first, but one of the first high profile like full video games with Unreal Engine 5 being used. Like I want to see more Unreal Engine 5 shit. Like I want to see what else Ninja Theory has up their sleeves, which we'll talk about in a second. But to say I'm not disappointed would be a lie, because I really thought that like how one did 7 years later with the backing of Xbox, that it would have taken a bigger step forward than it did.
Sure. And that's Cognitive and I were having that conversation in Discord where it's like you can't really call it a series at this point either, with just 2 games in it, right?
Sure.
And so if you say like, well, the series is known for these things, then that's what you're going to get. So why are you upset about it? Like, because I don't think necessarily with the second game, your complaints earlier about like the lackluster puzzles and kind of the shallow combat was not a highlight of the first game. You would
For
hope
sure.
there would be an evolution there in the second game that you can pick up on. Keep the good, move to the next. And so, like, I think we were talking. I think privately we were talking about like how does this fit in with something like God of War Ragnarok or Horizon Forbidden West, where everyone was like, "Wow, we love what you did so well in God of War that you carried over." And then you look at Horizon Forbidden West and you're like, there's so much of the same thing from before. It's do something new. But I think the problem is that between for Horizon and God of War was God of War elevated everything that it carried over.
Sure.
It took it up a notch. Whereas Forbidden West felt like they carried a lot over, and that's really all they did outside of just making the world way bigger.
Sure.
So for me, looking at something like this, I am like, okay, well, you can make games look really pretty, but content inside of those games, what happens next?
Yeah.
Where's your design team at that's designing the next portion of like, what is this going to look like?
Yeah.
Patrick?
It's disappointing, but we did get word today, or actually, was this today? Let me see. I forget. I don't think I have the article in front of me anymore. But I do have the article. This was from what's today's date? The 21st. This was from today, Cayman. Pulling from Wesley Input IGN, Microsoft reportedly has approved a new Ninja Theory game, which I think with the most recent news coming out of Xbox is a bit of a surprise, but I'm very glad to hear this. So Wesley Input writes, Microsoft has reportedly approved a new game from Hellblade 2 developer Ninja Theory and has no plans to close the studio. Windows Central reports that this new game from the Cambridge, UK-based developer is in addition to Project Mara, the already announced upcoming psychological horror game that takes place entirely in a single upscale apartment. There are no plans whatsoever to close the studio anytime soon, Windows Central added. IGN has asked Microsoft for comment. Yeah, Microsoft has been on record saying a lot of stuff before. But anyway, Microsoft today releases Ninja Theory's Hellblade 2 4.5 years after it was announced and 6 years after Microsoft bought the studio, bringing it into the Xbox Game Studios fold. IGN gave it an 8. They said blah, blah, blah. Yesterday, a day before launch, Ninja Theory Studio head Dom Matthews issued a heartfelt statement to fans expressing gratitude for their support, along with the development team for working on Senua Saga Hellblade 2. Some have expressed concern for Ninja Theory after Microsoft shocked the video game world by announcing the closure of a number of Bethesda studios, including Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks and Redfall developer Arcane Austin.
Bullshit.
The cuts came as part of a sweeping layoff announced earlier this year that affected 1,900 staff at Microsoft's gaming business. Let's see. Talking about Activision Blizzard. I'm actually surprised. So they don't actually say anything more about the game. So all we know is that it's been greenlit. So we were talking about the fact that, now I guess you could officially say that there is is Senua's Saga a series. Do you feel like, obviously Cayman, you not played the game, but you've consumed a lot of the content of this game so far. Do you think that, without either of us knowing how the game ends, do you think they go back to the Hellblade well for a third game, or do you think they move on and / what would you want? Would you want more Hellblade, or would you want them to do something different?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sold on Hellblade. I think the concept's really cool, and I have nothing against the concept. I think the concept's great. I think the concept sells Hellblade as a future considerable series, right? My problem is, based on what I know, based on my own hands-on experience of the first game and what I've seen and heard about the second game, I don't necessarily know if I want to see a Hellblade 3.
Sure.
It might be better suited. They might be better suited to do a different type of game that's maybe not, that maybe doesn't rely on complex puzzles or combat. Maybe they do something that's more narrative focused. Maybe something like Life is Strange. That could be a really cool thing of a fucking beautiful looking game like that. That's like a Life is Strange. I love the idea. What I will say is, if they do a Hellblade 3, I think there's a lot of very talented developers that were just laid off. They could fix a lot of the problems this game has.
True.
With everything else. I'm not saying that I think Ninja Theory should be closed down. I'm upset that Tango Gameworks was closed down.
100%.
I think Hi-Fi Rush might not have vibed with me just because I have zero rhythm whatsoever.
Sure.
But
You couldn't deny it was a special game, though.
It was an incredibly special game.
Yeah.
I think The Evil Within was also a really standout horror game.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of talent there. And I think that some of that talent could be shifted over to assist with Ninja Theory. That's the one positive, right, of having a bunch of developers under one umbrella, is that you can do moves like that where you shift people from one area to the other. We've seen auxiliary teams inside of PlayStation assisting with other areas. You have like the if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong. It was either the Naughty Dog B team helped with Ragnarok, like some portions of Ragnarok, or maybe it was the role reverse where like Sony Santa Monica helped with Last of Us Part 2 or something.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But like that's the positive of having all of these teams. You've got fucking Bethesda.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing. Bethesda makes buggy ass games, but they make fun games.
Correct.
Could you imagine having some people come over from Bethesda being like, we can add some life to this?
Yeah.
It will make that moment-to-moment gameplay more engaging for the audience and less reliant on the fact that the game just looks really good.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, man. Like flip it over. Make Bethesda games look more
right.
You know?
I think you're spot on with the obviously Tango Gameworks and honestly Arcane Austin being shut down was bullshit. Even though Redfall sucked, like Prey was, I thought, a fucking triumph.
Absolute hidden fucking gem of a game.
And you take that, you take Evil Within 1 and 2, and like there's a lot of horror shit that Xbox just killed, basically. And I think while Hellblade does have a lot of horror elements, I don't know that and I could be in the minority here, but I don't know that I identify the game as a horror game. But I feel like Ninja Theory absolutely fits the horror genre. And, you know, in the article, they talk about there's this Project Mara that they're doing that is a horror game. But like, I could see taking the combat of Hellblade, turning it into like gunplay combat, and it not be so like dual focused, and have the visuals of a Hellblade, you know, scaled down a little bit, I'm sure, for the sake of time and money. But like getting that Tango team together with like that, I think is such a good combination that could make something really fucking cool in the horror genre.
Yeah. So I think it's great. I think that there's ample opportunity for something really impressive to come out of Ninja Theory. I think right now the current team is just, I think they struggle a little bit with the actual gameplay side of things that could be tweaked a little bit. That's my, and this is obviously someone who's never made a fucking video game in his life.
Oh, for sure.
And it's just, you know, everything I'm saying is armchair quarterback, but there is a game coming out, Patrick.
There is.
That we haven't seen gameplay for.
We have not.
This baby boy over here picked it up for his fantasy critic.
Yeah, you did.
Because fuck you, I'm cleaning house. I'm cleaning house this year.
Yeah. Assassin's Creed Shadows was revealed a few days ago, and we got a trailer. We're going to react to it, but I do want to really quickly put one quick final button into the Senua Saga.
Oh, sorry.
No. You're good. You're good. I just want to end it by saying, if Hellblade 2 seems interesting to you and you have Game Pass, do yourself a favor, play it, see what you think.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is a reason to go buy an Xbox or buy a PC to play it so far. I think, and it's going to sound so reductive, and I don't mean for it to, but I think you could probably get 85% of the game by watching, like what Cayman's doing, by watching a playthrough of it, because there's such little time of you actually on the sticks. I think if you want to know the story and kind of experience it that way, I think a long play on YouTube will get you most of the way there. But I will check in next week. I'll have it done by next week and give kind of like a final score on it. But overall, it is more positive than negative, but the negative is certainly there. But yeah, Cayman, I mean, for so long, everyone has wanted Assassin's Creed to go to feudal Japan. And it's finally fucking happening. So we're going to react to this trailer and then talk about it and pray that we get a good fucking video game, because the trailer looks pretty fucking
Who are you? Who do you serve? I have ever known in my life. Our land.
It looks so good.
Our
does.
customs. My family. Burns in the name of unification.
That was the actor from Shogun.
Like, I know this is just a cinematic trailer, but it is gorgeous.
You are still a frog in a well.
It definitely looks the best of any Assassin's Creed cinematics.
Filled with new ships, but they all come from the same river. Greed. Power. Vengeance.
Man. I'm gonna slice and dice.
Oh yeah.
And you? Will you continue down that river? Or choose another path beyond what we see?
And we must look for it together.
What happens if the game comes out and it looks this good?
It might be the greatest game of all time.
Learn to trust. Rebuild.
I would love Assassin's Creed to like pull
And
in a little
follow
bit
the
closer, you know?
Oh, for sure. Obsessed that this is going to be a dual protagonist game.
Yes.
First of all. Like, I'm so interested to see how the combat feels based on how it looks in the trailer, since this is all, fake.
Yeah.
Is it going to just feel like Assassin's Creed always does, or are they going to make it feel a little different? I hope so.
So they did say that that like both Yasuke and the female protagonist whose name I'm drawing a blank on at this moment.
Let me see if this...
Where are the shadows?
That apparently both characters will play like drastically different, and missions you'll be able to swap between the two at will.
Which looking at the trailer makes sense. Like, she has this very like fast kind of OG assassin looking feel, and then Yosuke is like this hulking fucking samurai, and he looks like more of like a heavy character, which looks really cool. And yeah, I love this idea of like kind of matching the shadowy side of combat with the samurai side, and those two kind of worlds colliding and feeling or working in unison together. I think this game could fucking rule.
Yeah,
based on that trailer.
Yeah, no, and obviously trailers are they're selling you to like buy into the concept
for sure.
And to that point, I'm bought in. I'm not going to be one of those weirdo internet neckbeards who gets all fucking, I don't know why, upset about the concept of having Yusuke as a protagonist in this game. Makes no fucking sense to me.
Makes no sense that people are upset about a historical figure in a fucking Assassin's Creed game.
And then all the weird narratives that they're trying to like make to like prove some point that doesn't matter to anyone but them.
Also, I think you're right. I think it's Yasuke. I think I was wrong with you.
I was going to just start go because you're smarter than me. I was going to say, yeah. So either way, that is a real person. They were indeed an actual samurai. This isn't some weird concept that Ubisoft, which I've seen people say, like this weird concept that like they just decided to pull this person from history and we're like, we're going to make them blah, 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 blah. Like, and this is the first time we're ever doing it. Like, there is an anime on Netflix that came out 3 years ago that does the same thing. and it's really fucking cool. Like,
and
this is awesome. Hell yeah.
And also, I think if you didn't watch it, you just listen to us react, it might be unclear to you. Yasuke is a black samurai.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with the historical figure. And yeah, IGN has a really great article everyone should go read called Let's Not Pretend We're Mad, the new Assassin's Creed Shadow Samurai isn't Asian, going into like all the examples that we completely like whitewash Asian characters in Western media, that it's just the fact that he's black. Like that's why people are upset. Yeah. But I think like one of my favorite things about Assassin's Creed, other than the weirdo fucking modern day shit, is how they weave in real historical figures. Like with the Ezio trilogy, fucking Leonardo da Vinci was like your man in the chair. Like he was making you all like he's the reason that the fucking blade, like you could upgrade the blade and do all these things. And like so many of the experiments that he had in his time, they do their own version of in the game. Like there's the flying machine and like all these cool things that make it feel, it just gives it like a weight that makes it just feel more real. And like with Assassin's Creed Origins being set in Egypt, like kind of pulling from a lot of that culture and those stories, I think that's Assassin's Creed is its best when it is pulling from real history, in my opinion. And so I think it is a bold fucking move. And I'm so glad that they're doing it, that they're pulling from the samurai Yasuke and his story and kind of fictionalizing it and marrying that with what Assassin's Creed games normally are, which is that kind of like the stealthy, sneaky kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, in Origins, I think it was in Origins, it might have been in Odyssey. Like one of the characters that aids you throughout the entire game is Hippocrates.
Yeah.
But like this concept of them being like, because I've seen that other argument where people are like, well, you don't see them put real people in the game.
It's like, so you're not playing this franchise.
Like, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're even talking about at that point. Yeah. Like, seriously, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear you talk anymore. Grums, you fucking loser. What I think the big point here, though, all of the controversy aside, which is controversy silly as fuck, is that this game looks sick. Yeah. And we've all I feel like after Ghost of Tsushima, I just want to be in feudal Japan even more. Yeah. I think it's a really cool concept. And I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of Neo. And it doesn't seem like Rise of the Ronin is a game that maybe I necessarily want to dive into, just because the gameplay mechanic is like, I'm not good, as everyone knows. I'm not good at Souls-like games. And I get frustrated easily. Yes, I platinumed to Elden Ring. Yes, I can do it if I want to, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. That being said, I am very excited for this because this is actually a series or a setting I'm very curious to see how they pull off. That being said, I think what I am worried about is that Ubisoft is just going to once again refuse to learn from any of their mistakes.
That's the fear.
And they're going to make another one of those collect-a-thon, world is way too massive, way too many activities, and just not understanding that like, the part we all loved about Mirage, was that it was like pulled in.
Yeah.
And it didn't make me, it was never a point in Mirage where I was like, I have to do a billion things. And by 70 hours, I'm not even halfway through the story and I'm burned out and I don't want to play this game.
Well, some good news on that front is IGN did an interview with Jonathan Dumont, who is the creative director of the game, and said that the size of the game is very similar to Origins. Origins Egypt, yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Which
okay.
I think is like the perfect size for an Assassin's Creed.
Perfect
game,
size.
It has size, but it's not so big that you feel like getting to the other end of the map is a chore, like Odyssey, like Valhalla.
Yeah. That moment in Valhalla where you end up in North America and you're like, oh, wait, there's another map just as big as the one I just left. Fuck you.
Yeah. And then you do like you go and then you go to like the whole fucking mystical side of it. And there's another huge fucking map. It's like, what are we doing?
Yes. Origins, perfect size.
Yeah. Perfect. I'm very excited. And Tony in the chat, handsome Tony in the chat, hoping the combat is tighter. AC has always felt floaty. I do too. And I feel like at the very least, I would think Yasuke's combat would be tighter because I can't think of an Assassin's Creed character that would feel like this, because the way a samurai fights is very different than normal like sword combat in a video game. Like it's a completely different style. Like, you know, if you played Ghost of Tsushima or Trek to Yomi, even, like, you know that it's a very different style. So I would think that at least that side of it would be tighter. But then I would also expect if you're redoing that side, you're probably going to redo the other side too. And I'm still not able to find the woman's name, but I heard it once, but I can't remember. It's like now, I don't even want to try to say and be wrong. But yeah, so I hope so. And Tony goes on to say Ghost of Tsushima did the stealth / action so well. In fact, some people would say Ghost of Tsushima, one of the top 15 best games ever made. And so if
science, baby.
It's science. And so if you, learn from Ghost of Tsushima because they fucking
better
did it right.
than Super Mario Galaxy 2.
100% better. In fact, like 85 spots better than Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Crazy.
To be clear.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I'm so excited.
Yeah. It's also exciting too for me. The bummer here is, and this is what I hate about my birthday, is that it falls on the first week of November. And I always feel like when they release video games in November, and they do quite a bit, it's always the week after.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, guys. Don't you know that my birthday, like, can you give me, come on. Yeah, could you just give me a fucking copy early so I can get my hand? Or maybe we just need to make Spotlight bigger so we can actually get copies early.
That's true. If you're listening to this podcast and you work for Ubisoft, let us know because we would love to get advanced copies. But so next month in June, when actually in a few weeks is when Summer Game Fest is, which is like the new version of E3. Ubisoft is doing a whole thing. We're going to see gameplay then. So in a few weeks, we'll have an idea of what the game actually looks like.
If you had to, like, you could implement one change, like, what would you do if you were like, hey, I want this one thing to be in this version of Assassin's Creed? Like, what do you have anything like top of mind that you'd be like, this is what I want to see to like elevate my experience?
I think not to just take what Tony said, but I think one thing that Mirage, like you said, Mirage, the size of Mirage was great, and a lot of Mirage I think felt pretty good. The combat didn't feel that great, and I think to, I guess, inject a little bit of diversity into the conversation, the like the free running sometimes was a bit like you would just like run into a wall and it wouldn't work great. So I think if they could clean, because I think with I don't know exactly if they've said like where exactly the game is gonna take place. I would expect it to be, if it's in feudal Japan, I'd expect it to be Edo, which is like what Tokyo used to be.
I heard it's gonna be in Shibuya. 2003.
God. Hey, I wouldn't put it past this game to have the modern day also take place in Japan and it looked like that. But not very vertical play, like not a very vertical time period in terms of buildings. So I hope that the traversal really feels good. And I guess to add, you said one thing, but I'm going to say one more thing is so often in Assassin's Creed games, like at the beginning, we didn't mind it as much, but once we got to 2, 3 Revelations, it's like the stealth focused quests just always left you wanting more. Mm-hmm. I hope that they can, with the kind of source material of the kind of like the ninja style in this time period, I would hope that they are able to evolve a little bit on the stealth side and it feel a little more like Tsushima and it feel a little more natural and not so like, okay, I got to follow this guy and stay within earshot, like that kind of stuff. I hope that we can see some elevation on that side of it as well. Do you have anything top of mind for you?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool, like if they threw in the ability for like you to have cicadas to like mask your sound, because ninjas used to do that.
Yeah,
I just learned that fact. So
fun.
I think, like I said earlier, I think it'd be really cool to see the camera zoom in a little bit more. Maybe not as close as like God of War, but like I always feel like, and it is a very Assassin's Creed thing to have the camera pulled back to where you see like all of your character at all points. I would love to pull it in and like make you feel a little bit more lived in the shoes of the character you're playing as.
That'd be cool.
And I think that like doing that would also help elevate that feeling of newness, which I think Assassin's Creed right now could drastically need, like could use, is that feeling of like this is not your grandpappy's Assassin's Creed that you played back in 2006.
I could see, because there's going to be dual protagonists, I wonder, that'd be kind of cool if Yasuke's camera was tighter, because I would be willing to bet that character, you're not going to be running all on buildings.
Oh, they said that he's like, he's not stealth focused. He is very much like in the heat of battle, just
because if you're wearing like the full fucking samurai getup, you're not climbing buildings, like
unless you're the Ghost of Tsushima.
That's true. That is true. I guess you did do that in Ghost of Tsushima in the full armor at times. That's true. I also, and then one final thing, we kind of mentioned it, but I've always been a sucker for the modern day shit. And when they do it well, I think it's so effective and it's so cool. And it's just a fun way to tie it all together. And they didn't do it well for a very long time. Like that whole segment where it's like first person, you're like in Abstergo and it's very like kind of disconnected. Those never worked. But like when in Origins and Valhalla, I did kind of really like that new character Layla. I don't even know like what happened to her, if she's like dead or something, who knows. But I hope that they tie that in a way that works, doesn't overstay its welcome, and isn't goofy, which I know is asking a lot. But the first 3 games with the whole Desmond stuff, I thought was so fucking cool. And I would love for them to get back to a point where like we care about the modern day protagonist like we cared about Desmond in the first trilogy.
Yeah,
is that so much to ask, Cayman?
I think it might be, since they haven't been able to do that since the Ezio.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think you're right.
But that being said, I'm super excited about the game. Can't wait to see more at the Summer Game Fest, and then it drops right after my birthday. So right before your birthday too, right in the fucking middle, baby.
Yeah, see, I'm on the other end of it where I'm like, because my birthday is the end of November, and a lot of games launch the beginning of November. I'm always like, well, I am simply too impatient for it to be a birthday present, so I'm just gonna buy all these myself. And then my birthday comes around, like, hey, what do you want? I'm like,
money to replace all the money.
Right, exactly.
These birthday presents.
Exactly. But yeah, that's our show, folks. Let us know. Are you excited about Assassin's Creed Shadows? Have you been playing Hellblade 2? Have you been playing Little Kitty Big City, Sandland, Fallout 76? What have you been playing? Let us know.
Do you want to play Sea of Thieves with me? If you do, I'll get the game.
Yes, you. I think
if you don't,
I think everyone should want to play with us, because I mean it's on Game Pass. But it is now on PlayStation. So we know Cayman's going to buy it on PlayStation so he can get those sweet, sweet trophies.
I love sweet, sweet trophies.
You sure do. Cayman.
Yeah.
Where can the folks follow you at home if they want to see your antics online?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me at, I was going to say Kid Cayman. That was the old one. You can follow me at the Dumpster Boy. Damn, that was a callback. Follow me at the Dumpster Boy on Twitter. I'll do a quick shout out to my wife, who just Platinum Dave the Diver. She gave it a 3 out of 5. Said the platinum absolutely not fucking worth it, but she enjoyed the game. So that's her 12th platinum, by the way. So shout out to her for her being a baller. I'm gonna shout out her stained glass business that she runs, because it's really cool, and she's doing a lot of really cool stuff on it. So if you don't, it's called Bloodroot Glass Works.
Very good.
I fucked it up already. Go check that out on Twitter. She's got an Etsy page, and she's got some new Midsummer pieces. So if you want to get your wife something, because you're a dirty boy who sucks, get your wife a Midsummer piece.
Dirty boy. And I can confirm on Instagram it is Bloodroot Glassworks.
Nailed it. Bully. See, I knew it. I was just playing. It was a joke, you know. Where can they find you, Patrick?
What a good joke. You can follow me on Twitter at Patrick Schwag. You can follow the pod on Twitter at Spot Games Pod, or you can follow us everywhere else at Spotlight Games Pod. That's Instagram. That's TikTok. That's right here on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod, and that's on YouTube as well, Spotlight Games Pod. We'll be back tomorrow night for a little streamy, and we'll be back next week for another episode right here on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll see you then. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, because we can actually make money now, and we do, and we have, and it's great.
Patrick's been holding out on me.
It's just going right into paying for the fucking bills, baby.
That's about right. Yep.
Bye-bye.